believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible, and in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, begotten from the Father before all ages, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of the same essence as the Father, through him all things were made. For us and for our salvation, he came down from heaven. He became incarnate by the Holy Spirit and the Virgin Mary, and was made human. He was crucified for us under Pontius Pilate. He suffered and was buried. The third day he rose again. According to the scriptures, he ascended to heaven and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again with glory to judge the living and the dead. His kingdom will never end. Proceeds from the Father and the Son, and with the Father and the Son is worshipped and glorified. He spoke through the prophets. We believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. We affirm one baptism for the forgiveness of sins. We look forward to the resurrection of the dead, and to life in the world to come. Amen.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show run by the most hated man in the UK at the minute. I want to clarify a few things, and I want to explain my position and exactly why I've been saying the things I've been saying for the past few days. And again, I absolutely take on board not what the trolls say, because I don't give two hoots what the trolls say, but I absolutely take on board what people who are very close to me say, and friends and family, etc., etc. So, you know, I listen to what people are saying, and in accordance with that, I am not going to get into a diatribe of attacking people, but I do want to ask some questions about what's happening. And when, obviously, we all know what I'm talking about. We all know about the well, it's not even an elephant in the room. It's an elephant in the political discourse on the right, which I think is really important to have. And I think if we don't have these discussions now, very calmly, and I wasn't calm at the weekend. I got off a plane at the weekend, and after Advance really having an amazing conference the previous Saturday, to find out that Restore's decided to convert into a party, and then to subsequently find out that Restore are not, got to be careful how I say this again, I don't want to cause any more problems. Restore are inviting Advance to join, but not giving them any position. It's basically, you fold your party and you get in line behind us, and you do as you're told. That's the impression I get. Okay, That's the impression I get from the dialogue that's gone backwards and forwards, and from what I know in the background. Um, and if that's the case, I think that's not right, because obviously Advance UK is a fully formed structure. It's a structure there that could be used. It's a structure that has been put together extremely carefully in an extremely balanced way. Um, and again, of course, people might get upset with what I say, but like somebody says in the comments there, we have freedom of speech. And I'm not saying this because I'm a petulant brat, because I'm not, I might be a petulant brat, but I'm not saying it because I'm a petulant brat. I'm saying what I'm saying because I have genuine concerns about what's happening and the shape of things to come over the next 10 years. And I have literally no political ambition. I could have had um, a position in advance in Northern Ireland if I'd wanted it, without a shadow of a doubt. Okay. Um, I could have applied for the college. I didn't. And I didn't for the very reason that, one, I like being able to say what I can say, first of all. But secondly, I also know my own frame, and I know I can from time to time go completely off the deep end and say things that afterwards I think, oh man, I should have said that differently, or should have even said it at all. But I am what I am, and if people know me, they know that I am what I am. So, you know, I'm not going to apologise for that. But what I do want to clarify is this: what I want is a political solution to this country's problems. Now, I still believe that Advance UK, as it currently stands, with its current policies, politically, now we're not talking about numbers. If we could put all the numbers aside and put the Twitter sphere aside and put the popularity of Rupert, and obviously I would say a lot of rock stars are going to gravitate to Rupert. Probably Ant Middleton. I don't know if Ant's jumped on board with Rupert, but people will gravitate towards Rupert Lowe. But in terms of actual policy and structure of a political party, and it being a machine that would be extremely balanced and have lots of checks and balances in it to make sure that it doesn't become a dictatorship. And I'm not saying Restore would be a dictatorship. So again, I want people to listen to what I'm saying. I'm being very measured, and I'm not getting involved in attacks, and I'm certainly not wanting to be divisive, as you'll find out when I get to my conclusion. And if you watched what me and Howard discussed last night, which is what I think is the ideal solution to this predicament that we face. So the first thing is this: to me, there's no reason why Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain couldn't have just joined Advance. Ben was willing to give Rupert the leadership. He would have been willing, no doubt, to bring Rupert's advisors in and have a real collegiate party that would cooperate, that would be, Ben and Rupert, leader and deputy leader, would have been absolutely ideal. It would have been a match pretty much made in heaven. Rupert decided not to do that and decided to announce that he was going to form a party. Of course, the party isn't officially registered with the Electoral Commission yet. That's kind of a formality. It will happen, and maybe he's been doing it in the background, and we don't know. Who knows? But you've got a party that's already gone through those hard yards, that has branches set up all over the country, that has a very strong structure, and has some very, very good people involved with it. David Rose is a personal friend of mine, has been for many, many years. He is the chief policy guy in Advance UK. And actually the people that know me, that have been, that have chatted to me, I know that they're ideologically completely aligned with me. So it's like, I'm guessing it's more about the way I've presented things than what I'm actually saying and the concerns I have. So Advance UK, fully formed party, ready to go. Restore Britain, massive support, massive reach on Twitter, rock star status. Rupert's getting, supported by Elon Musk, supported by Uncle Tom Cobley and all, and quite rightly so, because Rupert's, he's a very, very powerful speaker. He's a very powerful man, and he's done an amazing job in Parliament, without a shadow of a doubt. So that's all 100% got to be said. But I don't think the division. I've been divisive, but I don't think the division's coming from Ben Habib. I don't think the division's coming from. I'm just making sure that mic's on there. I don't think the division's coming from Advance UK. I think Ben has been extremely magnanimous and reached out the right hand of fellowship. And the other thing is things can change very quickly in politics as well, and things can go well or badly very quickly. I do have concerns about the the policy people in Restore, and somebody said to me, well, look, there's been people involved in our movement that we don't agree with, we're not politically aligned with, but we kind of put up with them because they have their uses. That is a fair point. However, when it comes to political parties, obviously the people that are making the policy, they are the engine of that political party, and they're the engine room, and that's my concern, and that's what I want to drill down into, and that's what I want to find out for sure. And I think from an advanced point of view, I think rushing into anything, jumping into bed with someone um, before you know too much about them is probably not a good idea. So I think they need to be the College of Advanced needs to be very careful. And this doesn't have to be rushed. These discussions, it's far better having these discussions. It's far better getting things out in the open and saying, well, are you an ethnonat? Do you believe, that Britain should be, I don't know, 95% white, 85% white? Is ethnic identity more important to you than ideology? So, from my point of view, that they're the questions that I am asking, right? Um, if I've said anything that's not true, I don't think I have. I think everything I've said is accurate. But if I've said anything that is not backed by facts, then I would 100% apologise for that. But I don't think I have. I think what I've said is fairly accurate about the individuals that I've said. So that is my issue. The issue is, are there ethnonats in Restore? Okay, and they're hiding in plain sight. That's my big $50 million question. I'll tell you why I think that's important, and why I think it's important to get this sorted out now, because we're still 3 years out from an election. I want a solution where you have Restore and Advance and the people from Advance, all the good people. I mean, it would be a tragedy if Advance did fold into Restore Britain and you lost people like David Rhodes, Richard Thompson, um, Spud Ely, Dave, the lad that was an ex-para who spoke on the platform. I'm not sure if I mentioned Richard Thompson. Richard Thompson, some great military veterans, who have done the business and know what they're talking about. Some great business leaders who have fantastic experience in business. And if they were set aside for the sake of a small group of young men who are very bright, I'm not going to deny that they're very intelligent. I'm sure they could wrap me up in knots if they had a debate with me. I'm never pretending to be a super brain. I think I'm fairly clever, but I'm not formally educated. I've learned everything that I know myself. Um, but it would be a tragedy if all the intellectual power and the experience of the people round Ben Habib was lost and just swallowed up into what sounds like, and again, I can only go by what Connor said on his video, sounds like a bit of a dictatorship in terms of it's kind of you do as we say, and fall into line, plebs. That's how Connor's video came across the other day. Okay, so like I say, I don't care about the trolls. The trolls actually makes me want to be more, aggressive in my approach to this. But I care about, what people close to me say. Okay, and I listen to, people that have got, an impartial view on this, and I know are politically aligned. Okay, so So yeah, I think in terms of what I think needs to happen, and I'm allowed to have this, hopefully I'm allowed to have this opinion. Um, in terms of what I think needs to happen, I think there absolutely need to be talks between Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. I think the structure of restore Britain needs to be looked at. I think for me, the issue with Northern Ireland, and Ben is a passionate advocate for Northern Ireland, which is a massive, and I know most people in England won't give two hoots about Northern Ireland, but they should, because the UK is the UK for a reason, you know, and some of the bravest soldiers, Paddy Blair Main and others, think about Colonel Tim Collins, are proud Ulstermen. There's two special forces guys, proud Ulstermen, who would want to maintain the link between, obviously Blair Main's dead, but two proud Ulstermen that just come to mind straight away. So Northern Ireland's massively important to the UK, and not just because it's a little toehold of empire, as the lefties would tell us. So I'm a UK unionist. Um, Ben Habib's a UK unionist, absolutely believes in the UK, absolutely supports the link between Northern Ireland and the rest of GB, and wants to solidify that. Now, again, that's big for me. That's big for everyone in Northern Ireland. Okay? We are UK unionists. And that was one of the reasons that Advance UK is so important to us, and the structure of Advance UK is so important to us. In fact, even if you look at the song for Tommy's next event, it's, what is it, Four Nations, One Kingdom. That's what that's about. Tommy's well, if that, that song would suggest that Tommy's a unionist. So when you have people saying F the UK, I don't really appreciate that. Okay. And again, that's what, has been said by Carl Benjamin. So when I'm leveling these criticisms, they're not criticisms because I'm being petulant. They're not criticisms because I'm being a spoilt brat. They're criticisms that I genuinely hold, and I am genuinely very concerned about, because a couple of things. If I'm right about the ethnonet side of things, which again, it would take a long time and a hell of a lot of videos to go through to basically prove what I'm saying, about these lads, right? That there's ethno-nat tendencies there. Okay, if I'm right about that, that is going to be a stick that the media are already using to beat Rupert with. Now, if you're beaten with a stick that is on the moral high ground, say for instance, in fact, I'm going to come back to that, but the stick that's been used, by the way, I'm doing all this without notes and with it's whatever's coming into my head's coming out of my mouth. So, just so people know, I'm not someone that's manufacturing anything or writing things down and going, oh, this is what I think. These are the thoughts coming out of my head right now. So when it comes to Restore Britain, if I'm right about the people there that are making policy, then that is going to be catastrophic. And if Advance UK folds into that without thinking deeply about it, okay, then that is going to be extremely problematic. Now, the other thing is, a lot of people, I think I have more influence than I do have. A few people listen to me, but not a massive amount of people listen to me. Okay, so what I say really doesn't matter, because it's down to Ben, it's down to the college, it's down to Rupert Lowe, and it's down to his team to work out how to square this circle. Okay, but this is, for what it's worth, this is what I think would be a good solution, and I think this is what Howard Cox said yesterday, and this is Howard's position. Okay, that the party should be co-joined, so it's like a Siamese twin, and this would be a very healthy thing. And I'll tell you why it'd be healthy, because the logic is, Rupert Lowe set up a political party. If Rupert Lowe was completely aligned with Ben Habib, right? Well, why on earth would he set up Restore Britain that has exactly the same policies and ideology as Advance UK? There must be something there that Rupert doesn't like about Advance UK, and it's been alluded to. He doesn't like the college. Conor Thomas said there'll be no college. This will be it will the Restore Britain will not be democratic. You will bow to Caesar and do what Caesar tells you. So that's the ethos of Restore Britain. The ethos of Advance UK is completely democratic. It's a democratic party where the college may decide to get rid of Ben and say, let's just join Restore. Well, that's the nature of Advance. That's how it's been set up. And if that happens, that happens. But to me, the idea of a co-joined party is, so the legs are the same. So in other words, you divvy up the country by electoral what do you call them? Constituency. It's too early in the morning. You divvy up the country by constituency, and you say, okay, well, Advance, you have Middlesbrough, Belfast, Newcastle, Carlisle, Restore, you have Lincoln, Cornwall, London, whatever. You'll know what I'm saying. So basically, there's an electoral pact, but it's a bit more than an electoral pact. It's a formalization that things are good. The parties are going to move together and they're going to work together in cooperation, but they will keep and maintain their separate identities. Right now, that seems a very sensible way of doing things to me. Okay, if there's ethnonats. If it turns out that there's ethnonat leanings in there, then Advance can hive themselves off and say, okay, sorry guys, we don't want to be part of that. Okay? Yeah? So basically, they then separate themselves from Restore because it turns out that things that I believe could be true are true. Okay? And if that's the case, then you can separate. Right? Someone just put in the comments, Richard, do you remember what happened to Caesar? So basically, this idea of being co-joined, and you look at these Siamese twins can be separated. Okay, if you've got the same brain, you can't be separated. So if you've got one brain and two bodies, then you're stuck with the two bodies. If you've got two brains and one body, you can be separated again. And I think that's what Howard was getting at, and in fact, I know that's what Howard was getting at because that's what he said when we were talking about it last night. So I think my position is actually a very fair position. I think it's very measured. I think I've got every right to, at this stage of the game, to say, who are you? What do you believe? What are your connections? Are they good? Are they bad? And drill down into exactly what the people around Rupert believe. Now, I've watched these guys for a long time, and I think my analysis is right. Okay, I've watched hours of YouTube videos. Like I say, to go and pull up all the little bits from the YouTube videos that back up what I'm saying would be a mammoth task. But I don't think I'm too far from the truth when it comes to that, and that I find that problematic. Now, if I'm proved wrong, if Connor Tomlinson and these guys come out and say, no, we are not nativists, we are not ethnonats, we believe that the content of your character and not the colour of your skin is what you should be judged by, then I'll say, fine guys, you believe that and you're happy enough to put your name to a document like the pledge that says that you do believe that. And again, guys, I'll be honest with you, right? I'm going to be brutally, the pledge, I got a lot of stick from people about the pledge. Oh, your stupid pledge. Yeah? Now, I wonder, did they even read it? David Rhodes basically wrote the pledge. Okay, yes, it was ideas that I'd been thinking about, he'd been thinking about for years, but he's a lot more better. He's a lot more better. That's why I wrote it, because can't even speak proper English. But he's a lot better at putting things down on paper than I am. And David wrote the pledge, and it was considered by a very, very large team of people. I think it's the finest ideological document that's ever been produced politically, probably since the Magna Carta, and it sums up exactly what the problems are in this country, what the solutions are, and it absolutely targets ethno-nationalism. Now, Ben Habib signed the pledge. In fact, Ben Habib was involved in the formulation of the pledge. He was, I'm not going to say the bits that he did, but that's maybe for another podcast, and I want to make sure that Ben would be okay with me even talking about that. I think to lose Ben Habib as a leader, to lose David Rhodes, to lose other people in the college, to get swallowed up in Restore would be a tragedy. And I think the two should be together, but not the same. So it's this idea of unity and diversity. So in other words, you're unified in your goal, but you have slight diversity in the way you do things. Okay. So to me, these are my red lines. If there is ethno-nationalism at the highest level in Restore, that would be a deal breaker for me. If Restore insists that on any pact with Advance just gets swallowed up and becomes part of Restore, that would be a deal breaker for me, because I think Advance is pretty much a perfectly formed party. And I think both of those things are very reasonable. Okay? So to any of my critics, if that's me being, spitting my dummy out and being a brat, I've thought this stuff through very, very carefully. And I think I know what I'm talking about. Have I expressed myself in a cack-handed manner in the last few days? Yes, because I was absolutely spitting blood about the way things were done. Absolutely I was. I'm still not happy about what, the way things were done. I still think there should have been a lot more respect paid to Advance UK by Rupert. I'm just being honest about that. Okay, I think there has been a contemptuous streak in the way that Advance UK has been dealt with by Restore, and I think that comes from the team round him. That's my opinion. Now, and I think I think I can pretty much prove that by playing the videos and by going with with what's been said. I will not share anything with ethnonats. Okay, whether they're closet ethnonats or out there Steve Law's, your grandson's going home type ethnonats. And again, I do have skin in the game. My grandson's mixed race. Okay, so I will not have anything to do with ethnonats. And anyone that's of colour, that's of an ethnic identity, be very careful who you get into bed with, because we know that that they've been pushing in everywhere. I spoke to good friends of mine that gave platforms to ethnonats, and really good people that I loved dearly, good people. And I go, okay, well look, I'm I don't think that's the right thing to do, is to give ethnonats platforms. And I'll still maintain that position, because and I want to say something else about the ethnonat thing and why people are tempted to go down that road. I actually understand that, okay? Because the scummy left that have played identity politics for so long, and Douglas Murray said this many, many years ago, he said, the real nasty far right are always lurking there. They're always waiting for an opportunity. And I understand how people can be tempted down that road when we see, that we've got to make the countryside less white. What a load of absolute garbage. When we see that, Christmas adverts, mocking white people, Mrs. Claus being this very, very powerful black woman, and Santa being a little drunk white guy with a white beard. Well, that's me at Christmas, okay? I'm the little drunk white guy with a white beard. All the adverts, the DEI nonsense, all this stuff that the left, the identity politics and the culture wars that the left have foisted upon us. I understand the kickback. But if we do it on the grounds of ethnicity and not on the grounds of ideology and belief, that is completely wrong. Okay? Now, again, do I have time to trawl through Twitter and find every post that people have made to prove whether I'm right or wrong about my suspicions about some of the people around Rupert? No, I don't. Okay? I don't have time to do that. But I will try and get time to listen to a whole lot of the podcasts on YouTube that have made me come to the conclusions that I've come to, and I'll pull up the evidence from those. But yeah, so to me, okay, red lines won't have anything to do with ethnats. That's always been a red line for me. Anyone who knows me knows that. I'm very relaxed about that. I'm not going to be told I'm wrong for believing that, because I know I'm not wrong for believing that. So I'll have nothing to do with ethnats. And ethnats know that's why all the ethnats hate me because they know that I am a Zionist. I am pro-Israel. They all hate that for some reason. I don't know why they hate Israel, because Israel is pretty much an ethno-nat state. From what I can see, it's a Jewish state. You know, the Jewish people are very unique people. They're probably the only people on the planet who are ethnically and religiously the same, and that is a biblical principle. And I'm a Zionist, not just because of the Bible, but the Bible's a Zionist document, and you can't really get away from that. Um, so that's you know, the Jewish issue is always something that keeps cropping up, and you can tell the ethno-nats by their fruit. They have a massive hatred of Jewish people. And again, I said this about Connor Tomlinson was boasting about his idea to ban kosher along with halal, and I got a lot of kickback from this. I'll tell you why I don't think it's right to ban kosher and it is right to ban halal. Halal has been pushed on us. Millions of people are eating halal food every day that don't want to. I've eaten kosher food once, as far as I know. And guess what? I was with Tommy when I ate the kosher food. So there you go, to all the Jew haters and all the Tommy haters and all the people that hate me. Richard and Tommy went to a kosher restaurant about 5 years ago and had a lovely kosher meal. You know, I've probably eaten more halal food than you could shake a stick at down through the years, and not even known it back then, because when I was, you know, walking out of a kebab house after 10 pints of lager with chili sauce all over my face and garlic sauce dripping down my shirt, nice picture, I would have been eating halal food. Okay, so, and we've all had halal food pushed on us. And if we want to get rid of radical Islam from the UK, one of the best ways to do it is ban halal food. If you want to get rid of Jews from the UK, one of the best ways to do it is ban kosher. I don't want to get rid of Jews. I want to get rid of radical Islam. And that brings me to the final point. What this does, it obscures, and this is why I've gone at this relentlessly for the last few days. This obscures the true battle. The true battle shouldn't be between restore and advance, right? It should be between what's right and wrong. And it's wrong to be an ethno-nat. It's just wrong, okay? And that's why I've highlighted what I believe to be the ethno-nats hiding in plain sight. And again, if they come out and say we are absolutely opposed to ethno-nats, to being ethno-nats, we're never going to go down that road, then I will absolutely fall into line and say, right, guys, that's it. That's fine. You know, I was wrong, and I will apologise. I will absolutely, if I can be proved beyond reasonable doubt that I'm wrong about these guys being ethno-nats, I will absolutely apologise. But I don't believe the evidence is there to do that yet. So the big battle we're facing is against radical Islam and the left. It's not on the grounds of skin colour. And remember, the left have been in power. I count Boris Johnson as a left-wing politician. I count the Conservative Party as a communist. The Conservative, I used to call them the Conservative and Communist Party. They've been taken over by the left and identity politics. That's how far everything's moved to the left. So they're to blame. Actually, and this is the irony of this, white middle-class men are to blame for the problems that we face in the United Kingdom, because it's the lefties, the globalist internationalists in the Tory party, the Liberal Democrats, and the Labour Party that have foisted this disaster upon us since the Blair Witch Project got off the ground in 1997. Okay, now this is an extremely long monologue I've given, okay, about what I believe. So let me summarize this and bring it to a close, and then we'll do something different after this. We'll maybe have a look at Twitter, and that'll get us really triggered. So this is what I believe, okay? I am a Christian civic nationalist. I believe that Britain is great because of Christianity, right? That doesn't mean you have to be a Christian at all, right? But Christianity has impacted all our lives and shaped what we think and what we believe, whether we like it or not. Whether we're atheists or non-atheist, Christianity has shaped our country and shaped what we believe. Not our identity. If you look at the Anglo-Saxons when they came over here, they were savage, right? They were brutal people. That's why we've got the warrior spirit, which is a good thing. But the Anglo-Saxons were brutal people. It was Christianity, Celtic Christianity, and Roman Christianity that civilized the Anglo-Saxons. Before that, the Romans brought Christianity to Britain, and Christianity had a bit of a flourishing in the third and fourth centuries. St. Patrick went out, evangelized the Irish as a slave, and then as a free man, and converted the Irish, and then the Irish Celtic Christians came back to the UK. Sorry, wasn't the UK. Came back to Britain, evangelized Britain, and Britain became a Christian country, and it's been a Christian country ever since. And I believe that Christendom has to be defended from the radical left who hate Christianity, from the Islamists who want to replace Christianity with the disaster that is Islam. Okay, it's a disaster for the people that follow it. It's a disaster for any country that it affects. So to me, the massive threat to our country is always Islam. It's not racial identity. Okay, so that's what I believe. So there's what I believe. How do we fix this? Advance UK and Restore have a pact. They grow up together as co-joined parties, as Rupert Lowe has said. If at some point they become so aligned that it would be ridiculous for them to carry on their own, then they merge for sure. But I think, and it's my opinion, it doesn't matter what I think, because it matters what Ben Habib, the college, and Rupert Lowe and his team decide. Okay, but I think the idea of being co-joined, having different identity, but having the same thrust of working together and cooperating in the short term would be the best way to go. Okay, that's just my opinion. So that's it. That's what I believe. If I'm wrong about the ethno-nats, I will apologise. I don't think I am, but if I am, I will. And that is my final word on this. It's over to the college. It's over to Rupert Lowe's team. It's over to Ben and David and the leadership of Advance UK. And it's something that we have to get right. Okay? It's something that has to be done right. So I hope that puts all that to bed. Again, I'll be watching this very closely. And by the way, just to all my critics, my critics who are friends and my critics who aren't friends, I have a right to say what the hell I want in this space, because it's called freedom of speech, and there's a little organisation called the Free Speech Union, which I'm a member, and that's set up to defend my right to express what I want. And people have a right to criticise me, but where I cross the line was when I get personal and personally insult people, and that's not right. It's not right. Okay, unless they're total wrong-uns. But to personally insult people is probably wrong. So I would apologise to the people I've personally insulted, to be brutally honest with you, because personal insults don't achieve anything. It just puts people's backs up, and it's not the way to have a dialogue. But there's still a bit of the old savage in me. There's still a bit of the fighting spirit, and some of the people that criticise me, I know, have an equal measure of that fighting spirit in them. So anyway, that's it. Do you know what? I think I'm going to just end the stream there. I'm going to look at some of the comments, respond to some of the comments in the super chats. Again, thanks for the super chats. I hope what I said there made sense, and I hope what I said is taken on board by my friends and my enemies. I don't care about my enemies, but I do care about what my friends think and what my family thinks. So yeah, let's have a little look at the super chats. Okay. Good morning, Rich. On my first 2-mile walk unaided. Glad to have you in my ears. Oh, thanks so much, CO2 lad. Do you know what? It's amazing. I mean, CO2 lad, it's amazing what I believe God is doing in your life in terms of healing and helping you. So that's fantastic. And again, I'm gonna keep doing the Christian stuff. I need to work out exactly how to do it, because what I want is the Christian ethos to be coming through. I believe the solution to our country is not political, incidentally. I believe it's spiritual, and I believe, there was a lot of, not going to bore people with the details, but there was a lot of tumult going on in my life last week, and I think that probably influenced the way I was speaking. Certainly on Friday, Saturday, possibly Sunday. But I've calmed myself down now, and but yeah. So I think it's amazing seeing what God's doing, and with this channel, you know, and revival is the answer. Okay, revival is the answer to this, in my opinion. But again, I'm not gonna rush to make any decisions on anything political. But I have got a right to discuss these things openly and let people know what I believe and what I think. Richard, you spoke with your heart emotions. I do the same. Deep breathe. Here's a verse for us both, brother. Set a guard on your mouth. See, this is the problem. Do you know what my problem is, right? I know all this stuff, but I don't do it. I know when I've crossed the line, because as soon as it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, oh man, what did you say that for? So I know that if I did that, if I set a guard over my mouth, I wouldn't be getting into the trouble that I get into. Okay. Set a guard over your mouth. Set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the door of my lips. Very good advice for all of us. You know, trust your instincts, Richard. You've been spot on so far. Well, again, the time will tell. You know, if I'm wrong, and if anyone knows me, I've made a lot of apologies in my life. If I'm wrong, I will apologise, 100%. I don't think I am. Love you, my brother in Christ. Your suspicions are well founded. God's richest blessing to you and yours. Well, you know, again, this is why we need discernment. This is why we need discernment. I'm going to dive into the chat. There's a lot of people watching this morning. Thanks for coming on the channel. Thanks for the super chats. I think, to me, the big issue is we've got to. This is a good comment here. This is a good comment. Tusi did a good report yesterday talking about our history. Church and state is important to keep out Islam. Now, we've got to look at what's going on. We've got to look at the thrust of what's happening in our country. And the biggest enemy we've got is the left and radical Islam. They are twin evils. So, but we fight against that by having ideological purity, which I believe the Pledge and Advance UK have. The structure is important, but the ideological purity is more important. Yeah. So let's go through some of these comments, guys. Right, we'll start from the beginning, if I can. Man, there's loads. A leap of faith is needed. Ben is not stupid and would not be all in for a merger, or if it wasn't right for the country. We get one shot at this. I agree, 100%. That's why I'm being cautious. Yeah, not because I want to be, heard, or I want to be. I'm being an idiot. It'd be so much. Do you know what? Here's the thing. It would be so much easier for me not to actually mention any of this. Just to go, okay, well, I'll go quietly. I'm not gonna make a fuss. So let's have a little look at what people are saying in the chat. We'll go back as far as we can. Of course, they are ethno-nats. They basically, yeah, absolutely, they have admitted it already. That's what I believe. I'm not, and again, I'm not the only one saying this. Yes, some people on the left are saying that we don't pay any heed to what the idiots on the left are saying. But it's when people like Roger Meir were saying this yesterday. Pete North was making points about this, and as far as I know, Pete North is pretty much in there with Restore. So there's a lot of people who've been saying what I'm saying that are not natural critics of this. I think this is really important. SDDH. This is where I fell down last week. I haven't been, at the races with the prayer and the Bible study. I've been very busy with other stuff. Obviously, coming off the back of the conference, got back from the conference, was straight into getting ready for going to a trade show last week. So I've just been mad busy and really tired. So that doesn't help when you're like that. Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of questions that Connor needs to be asked. Okay, I think there's and you know, and needs to answer honestly. You know, and I'm sure he will answer honestly. You know, I think Connor's a Christian, so I'm sure he will answer the questions honestly. Um, okay, I don't know where when a Connor Thomas is coming. I would say that Rupert is the antithesis of anti-democratic. Yeah, that's a good point. That I think that's a very good point. I mean, I think again one of my criticisms of Rupert was he voted for the assisted dying bill. Okay, now um, I again we've all been bereaved. We've all had some people that we know and love who've suffered dreadfully with cancer, dementia, and so on and so forth. So a lot of people, and again, you know, it's like the other issue that I've spoken about quite a lot. We've got to deal with these issues, end of life, um, with compassion because the suffering that people go through and the suffering that families go through with some diseases is unbearable and horrible. And you know, seeing the way my wife has dealt with her mother, and the love that my wife has shown to her mother, um, you know, as she's suffered with dementia, you know, just seeing her break down in tears because of the suffering that is going on there, and seeing the person that you love just gradually go downhill. But I think anyone that's nursing someone that's going through that, they become a better person for it. They become a more humane and more compassionate person. So anyway, this I'm going off on a tangent on the assisted dying thing, but Rupert voted for the assisted dying thing initially, and I've been told subsequently that he voted against it, which is great. But initially, he voted for the assisted dying bill because he had a poll of his constituents. Now, like to me, that's taking direct democracy too far. You're elected, you make the decisions yourself, you live by them, or you live by them, or you die by them, right? But so in that respect, he was very democratic then because he actually had a poll of the people in Great Yarmouth, and they said we think you should vote for it, and he did. Um, I have a problem with that, obviously because of what I believe, but you know, so he is democratic in that way. Okay, um, Richard as ex-service, I'm sure, is brought on the show. Yeah, listen, I mean, I was getting slaughtered. I mean, people doing hit videos against me. It'd be far easier just to say nothing, you know. But if I believe this sincerely, I'm not going to just sit on my hands and go, all right, well, if you don't want me to say anything, I'll sit in the corner and shut up, Richard, you know, sit in the corner, you know. Um, and I think this is solvable, but there needs to be complete um, there needs to be complete trans. I haven't seen. You see, I just haven't had the chance because I've been so busy, you know, with work, with family, with sorting all, you know, my positions out. That it's been very difficult to get across really a whole lot of the social media. And again, if let me know what was said in that, I'll maybe just go and try and find that. Um, Ben has always been very open with Ruben. I would agree with that. Sue, I would agree with that. That Ben has been very open, and I don't think we've had um, the same from. Yeah, yeah. Tommy's safe. Um, but it's better. The thing is, it's better to have these debates now than to have them just before an election. So it's better to get everything out in the open. So you know, people have just got to take a chill pill. You know, I've taken a chill pill now. Everyone else has got to take a chill pill. And okay, let's have a look. Tina, it was awful. I switched over to see Paul help too. It wasn't nice. Tells us something, doesn't it? What's that? Have I missed something there, guys? Duh, 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 duh. See, this is the problem when you get an answer to someone's question, you've got to go and try and find the question. Oh, is this on the channel last night? Yeah, listen, I was getting the death on the channel last night. That doesn't bother me. I don't care about people that are going to come on the channel that I don't know and troll me. I care about people that, or I care about what people think, who I respect and who I've been doing this with for a long time. Okay. Connor is one little boy making himself more. Look, I'm just reading this comment. This isn't necessarily what I think. Connor is just one little boy making himself important. I think we need to let the big boys talk, as please it's starting to get bad in the Shires now. Yes, the hobbits really are not behaving themselves. Um, Connor is a lot more than just a little boy, unfortunately, making himself very popular, making himself important. Connor is important. That's the issue. Connor is in charge of policies. Um, yeah, Connor is in charge. If Connor is in charge of policies, we definitely know what's on his mind. Whether he is the chief policy guy, I think he is, right? Um, you see, this is the thing. To a great extent, Rupert is the figurehead, of course, but the people around him. This is what I keep saying to people. It's the engine room that counts. Okay. Now, by the way, thanks for this amount of dialogue on here, and thanks for it being very polite today. After yesterday, people need to see what reform are really like them in Wales, and that's going to put the spotlight on them and get Advance UK to hold them accountable. Yeah, I mean the problem is if this goes wrong, there won't be an Advance UK, and I think that would be a disaster. That's my opinion on the thing. Okay, and I'll do a video. I'll do a short video on this just to boil down what it's taken me basically an hour to say. Um, I was going to say something about being long-winded, but I'll no doubt people will take that the wrong way as well. Good morning, all. I'm sticking with Advance UK. Yeah, me too. Me too. But that option might be taken away from us. That's what I'm worried about. Richard, I hope Ben and Rupert come together. So do I. So do I. I want to see Labour gone, but I don't want to see something come together that is not workable. Okay? I think Alex Phillips thinks Charlie Downs is an ethno-nat, which is why she kept pushing him on Talk TV, because his logic on Christian faith made no sense. I'm going to have to watch that show. I think Charlie Downs is an ethno-nat. I do. I mean, I just, you know. Um, okay. Yeah, it really depends, mate. Some are more aligned with British, others more aligned with Irish. Well, yeah. Oh, if we're getting into Northern Ireland, oh man, that's one for another day. Yeah, I got that. I got that. Richard Lowe only voted for assisted dying. He only voted for first debate. That, which is great. I didn't know that. Again, and this is where, you get one little bit of information, it sticks in your head. None of us have all the information. And here's the thing, right? None of us are right about everything. In fact, most of us are pretty wrong about most things most of the time, if the truth be told. We have our biases, and I'm not being a lefty when I'm saying we have our biases. We do have our built-in biases. It's because of life experience or whatever, and we once we go down those. Well, yes and no. He didn't clarify that. He didn't say, I believe in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and I'm a UK unionist. That's what worried me about, because I watched that interview, and again, he's getting the time to watch everything in massive and minute detail. And I personally believe Restore Britain is an ethno-nat party. Um, if Advance surrenders, then it comes out in the media later. You guys regret it. Brummy, so do I. So do I. And that's what my big fear is. And, we're not all mad. We're not all mad or bad. The fact that I've got these suspicions is really, really, I think, important. We've wanted unity between Rupert and Ben for the last 6 months. It's now happening. I hope it does happen. But the point is, I know that it's not just at the minute happened, and that is my concern. Now, and I think people have got to remember that that this isn't. Okay, I'm just getting a few messages in here. Just give me information on what I'm looking at. So, and what I'll do as I get the information in, if I am wrong, I can guarantee you this. If I'm wrong about these guys, right? If I am wrong about these guys being ethno-nats, right? And I don't want to labor this too much because, you know, there's no point. But if I'm wrong about that, I will do a video and I will apologize to them. 100%. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But I think we need to know for sure. This is the whole point. And it's not a question of division. It's a question of making this work and saving our country. And I think, you know, that's what motivates me, and that's what pushes me. Yeah, most of us are asking the same questions. We're going to go. Do you know what? I'm going to go right down to the bottom of the comments here, guys. Now, and New Zealander, I'm a big Kiwi fan, Richard. You're a good man, and people would be wise to listen to what you're saying. You have a good head for politics. If the suspicions about Restore are true, they will be very divisive, which would be disastrous for the UK. Again, this is what we've got to find out. And I think there's got to be questions. We've got to drill down and find out exactly what people believe. Actually, guys, I'm going to put these comments on the screen here. Yeah, you have a good head for politics, especially about Russia. It'd be divisive, but it'd be disastrous UK. New Zealander, thanks very much for that. That is wise counsel indeed. Let's go down to the bottom here. Yeah, I mean, I think we're at the stage now. What does it matter, Catholic or Christian? I think we're at the stage now where I don't care about that sort of stuff. You know, if you're a Catholic, well, I'd rather have a Catholic standing next to me than a radical Muslim or a radical atheist. You know, and that's not to attack atheists. I'm on about the radical ones, not just the normal atheists that just bimble on and don't think about God. There's a big difference. You know, I'm talking about the Dawkins types, the ones that take great pleasure in mocking Christianity. So I'd rather have a Catholic than a Dawkins any day. Connor showing himself what he is. Richie and Rogue in Wales, from what I could make out, were saying they left advance and put Wales first. That's not helped, in my opinion. No, I don't think they've been helpful. You know, and again, do you know what? I really like Richie and Rogue. I was very disappointed in the timing of that and what they did. I thought it was vindictive, to be honest with you. I get they've been hurt, but they should have just, to me, you know, with the way things are, it would have been far better dealing with that maybe in a month's time. Yeah. Oh, Mitch should have seen the Mike Graham show when Ben was on. Ha, they have it trying having a go at him. Ben came back on fighting. Good old. Listen, Ben is so good at this, right? That's why I am not going to be a politician because I am an attack dog. I'm not going to be a politician. I just want the country to work. But I'll carry on being a commentator, no matter what happens. Right? The pledge is still there. I believe the pledge is the ideological purity of this movement, 100%. I'll keep pushing the pledge, and if you haven't signed the pledge, please go and sign the pledge.org.uk. If someone can put that in the comments, pledge.org.uk. If you could sign that, because the pledge could actually be more important now than ever. It really could be. It could be massively, massively important because let me just drop this in the comments here. Okay. Do me a favor, guys. If you're watching this on the Richard Inman channel, right, go across to Counter Media, register on Counter Media. I'm going to start putting all my unique content on Counter Media. I'll be putting links to it from the Richard Inman channel. But if you could dive on there, that would be really, really helpful. Okay. Biffo, if we let our principles go, what's the point? We cannot save the country. I agree with that 100%, Wolfhammer. That's why it's so important. Also, guys, what I want to do, I'm going to play a video. I'm not sure if I played this yesterday. Let me try and find it. It is about, where are we? No, it's not that one. That's Benford number 10. In fact, I might play that anyway, just to annoy people. I think that's it. Is that it? Let's have a look. Okay, here we go. Quick question. What are you doing? Quick question. What are you doing on the 16th of May this year? There's only one place to be, and it's in London. Now, we literally, we haven't decided exactly where we're going to be in London, but we're going to be in London. And we're going to do the biggest cultural event that's ever been launched by mere civilians, by mere mortals like us. Obviously, the government and the royal family have put on some blinding cultural events in the past few hundred years. But this one's going to be different, because this is going to be by the people, for the people. And it's about uniting the kingdom. So it's called Uniting the Kingdom. It's not about making England great again, because England's already great. It's not about making Britain great again, because the name says it all, Great Britain. It's not even about making the United Kingdom great, because the United Kingdom's always been great. No, it's about uniting the kingdom. It's about bringing people together to celebrate our shared culture, our shared love of the country, and our shared passion to see our country succeed. So 16th of May, book your tickets, book your flights, book your hotels. There's probably going to be twice as many here as there were last time. So that's a lot of people coming to London. And London's going to be ready. And, well, it better be ready, because we're coming. And we're coming in big numbers to show everybody that we love our country, we love the people of this country, and we want everyone to stand together, united for the greater good. See you all soon. So there you go, guys. Listen, I'm going to go. I'm sure loads of you guys got loads to do. I don't want to keep anyone late from work. Thanks for all the comments. Very encouraged, actually, by what people said there this morning, because I was feeling a bit deflated. Again, just because of just, yeah, well, you know what it's like. Anyway, so I'm going to go. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll do all this again soon. And like I say, keep the faith and stay close to Christ, because when you don't, you end up in all sorts of trouble. And right, okay, see you soon, guys.